It's friends living well.
We're just girls. We're just fucking girls. And I've never claimed to be anything but a stupid girl. We're just girls.
It's like New Year's.
You should have little kind of like fireworks in the corner, a little like blow up thing. Why not?
It is a good time here.
Yeah, exactly. Let the people know. It's a good time.
Right? Can you imagine one day? Well, I would love that, but I can already see myself falling asleep and just like showing up if I did a real New Year's live episode.
Well, you could do it like, for kids, they do it at noon. You could do
There
that
we go.
version.
I like
Yeah.
that version for the
Yeah.
elderly and for children.
Right, exactly. Midday, older adults, kiddos time.
Right.
Like, it's perfect.
Oh man, making it work. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for being here. We are on episode 33, which is pretty awesome. Let me get my notes together. I'm Nikita Mahon, a licensed clinical therapist. I am also the co-founder of Full Living Wellness, which is what has brought us here to making this podcast. And today we have a very special guest, one of our own team members. Dani, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dani Castejon. I'm also a clinical therapist, and I'm the newbie here. So I'm excited to be here. I'm happy that you invited me over.
Right. So excited to have you and have this time to just get to know you all the more and share your story and your experience. And I was just thinking, it's been since, the beginning of the year, and it feels like we're going into a new season together too. So it's good timing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, when you get that sunshine again too, we started in the thick of things in January and getting that sunshine again.
And
It's like revitalizing.
we were really in it, man. I know obviously PA winters are always a thing, but this winter we really got it. And it was a unique time in Philadelphia, especially
Yes.
everybody just buried in.
Back to back, right? Like we got that one storm and then we're like, okay, we survived it. And then when
Another.
we're like, okay, we're back inside.
Wow. I feel like everybody is just waiting for that warm, hot, wet. I can't wait to see what Philadelphia is going to come alive.
Yes.
Right now, we're like right on the cusp. It's sunny, but it's still cold out.
Yes.
When it gets hot, Philly's going to come alive.
Brisk spring weather. But I got my plants out. I started. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm a garden goddess. I got my, well, I'm a beginner. So I got my little basil, my little cherry tomato. I'm going to see what happens. Some cucumbers.
You're going to make some salads. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Some like refreshing, snappy summer salad. We'll see.
Right. I'm excited. One, we have our spring event talking about gardening. We'll be doing a little, I just got the cutest stuff yesterday for it. I'm so excited.
Mhm.
Right. And then also I'll have to post some pictures of it, but I planted, I think well over 2,000 wildflower seeds in my garden. I had a huge garden bed. And I was like, what do I want to do this year? I was like, I just want everything to be flowers.
Oh my God. I can see you. Are you going to do you have a basket? Like you're going to be with your basket, like cutting the flowers and putting them in. Ugh.
Get one, and I'm going to do the summer dress thing.
Yes. That's exactly the vision I had.
It's gonna be I'll have you over.
I love it. Send us those pictures. Take a video. We want to be there with you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ashley, our marketing queen, she can come over and she'll be like, okay, this is for Full Living Wellness. Smile, make it happen. I love her. All right. I'm excited to ask you some questions just to get to know your journey of becoming a therapist, because this is such a unique experience for all of us of how do we actually get here, this wonky world of therapy. What kind of led you to the world of therapy?
Yeah. I am jealous of people who have clarity, right, of what they want to do in their lives, because that's definitely not where I was at.
Yeah.
And I know many people who are like, I knew this is what I wanted to do, right, and had that focus and drive. But is that where you were at? You were kind of.
I didn't know what it was gonna like. I didn't know what the word therapist was, but I have a very keen memory at like age 7 where I was like, I'm gonna talk to people and help them in this way. Like I like doing that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 7 years old. Incredible.
Yeah. And then,
Oh my gosh.
long trajectory. Because how do you
Yeah.
become a therapist? What's required for that? So it was quite a journey. But now that I'm finished it, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, it was just like talking to people and helping people. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, incredible. I don't know if this is a good reference, but it makes me think of, the Peanuts. Isn't there a character who did like has like an advice bench?
Yes.
It's like a
Bring
vague memory, but that's what I'm imagining you 7 years old being like, "Let's get into it," right? Where do we begin?
before Esther had it, where do we begin?
Exactly. At 7, incredible. Um, but no, I didn't have that clarity. I was very interested in social justice, social movements in college, and so was interested in kind of the more macro end of things.
More of those systems and
Yes, and I think that's kind of like a split that in school, right? They even make of like you're on the macro track, you're on the micro track. And there's not a lot of conversation about how those are blended, right? And how many skills are important that translate across the board. Um so I always just kind of was really focused on working. I loved working individually with people, but it was always like, oh, I need to think about impact, I need to like think bigger picture. And right after school, I studied politics, actually, Latin American politics.
yeah.
Um, I did an AmeriCorps program working directly with kids, worked with a social worker there who was incredible,
Oh,
and had done in college also a little bit of clinical work as a counselor, just a volunteer counselor at a domestic violence agency. So kind of had been doing that kind of individual work already. Um,
wow, so you just
but
kind of
yeah,
self in there. It's like something just kind of pulled you towards that work and then you've figured it out as you were going. "Oh, these are some of the options of what I see people doing, like that social worker."
yeah, exactly. Like it's, seeing someone do it is working individually with people and having such a strong impact with, I mean, at that time it was children and youth, and it was really powerful to see. And I definitely felt kind of like that feels aligned to the work that I want to do. I want to be like in the thick of things, in the community, feeling connected and rooted. Um
That
and
feels similar, like that feel like as you're saying the feeling, like, "Oh, I wanna do that. I wanna be with you in that."
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. And I feel really grateful that I was able to experience that. And it made it less kind of mysterious of like what happens in social work, what happens in therapy. And even when I went to school, I was kind of grappling this, am I going to do macro? And it was almost a denial. I feel like I was like, oh, I'm going to do clinical route, but so that informs my macro career work that I'm going to do.
Yes.
Because I felt strongly that working with people was about making change, right? And those skills were important. And I found myself really called to doing domestic violence work again, working with survivors, being in that kind of empowerment counseling model. I loved it. Um, and therapy found me. It really just happened. Um, and now I'm here, and it feels honestly like doing therapy gives me like hope in the world, honestly. Things can feel dark, but you really get kind of that feeling that people want to change for the better, right? That people want connection. And so I'm glad that I found myself in this work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm sure everybody that works with you is in the same boat. So glad that you found your way to
Yeah.
it. And that's so true. That's such like a kismet, uh, reciprocal relationship that you can have with clients in that way where they give you that hope and that optimism and a reminder you're not alone. We're all doing this. We're all trying to figure it out. And we do overcome, we do grow, we do develop from these things. We don't stay stuck.
That hope that you get in that space is feels really empowering, I think. And is an unexpected something that's unexpected. I think when I started therapy, I did not expect that. And especially when I was doing trauma focused therapy and I was working with kids, a lot of folks would say, "Oh my goodness, that must be so like challenging and heavy," and definitely aspects that were. But I actually told a lot of people that it felt really hopeful. And a lot of the time I was laughing in sessions with my clients and sharing in their joys and celebrating their victories and their strengths. And that's a huge part of therapy work, I feel like, as well.
Totally. Yeah. So much of especially trauma gets focused on of the negative impact and how much harm happens to people from trauma, which is so true. And there's a whole side
Mhm,
of that. But there is so
mhm.
much strength and connection and beauty and healing and repair that can happen. And that doesn't always get as much of a voice or a focus.
Yeah.
as the other side does. So being a therapist where you get to see that is it's very empowering for you and for the clients that you get to work with. There's a number of people where I'll say, like, I have proof, like, I meet hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Like, I've got pretty good pattern pickup at this point,
Yes.
and the pattern shows, like, people do heal from things. They do change over time, especially if they want to.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, the number that you say too, hundreds. I was reflecting. I was like, oh yeah, I've worked with hundreds of people at this point. It's wild. Wild to think about.
Yes. Yeah, how long has it been now?
Well,
I always have to, like, count my fingers. I'm like, "How long has it been?"
right. Yeah. Okay. I think it started clinical journey 2018. 2018 is when, and that's when I started as a child therapist and doing trauma work. So yeah, it's been 8 years, 8ish years. So it's
Right?
good.
I hear 2018, I'm like, "That was yesterday." That was 2 weeks
What
ago.
is time?
It's really gonna be 2028 soon.
Oh
God,
my goodness.
right? Literally.
Yeah.
You'll be celebrating your
Oof.
10 years. I did that mark myself of, like, officially over
Did
that
you
10.
do something? Did you buy a little sweet treat?
I be buying sweet treats just because every single day, just for being alive,
Good.
but this week, I'll buy one now specifically for that, Danny, because you gave me that idea. You know, and it hit me out of nowhere from the same thing. I was doing the math, and I was like, "Wait, no, it's, like, well past 10 years now." Like, that's a lot of time
Yeah.
that's gone by.
That's a lot of time. Oh my
And
gosh. What
I was gonna ask you, like, what has changed or developed for you from the beginning to now? 'Cause there are so many ways I've grown and changed, essentially, like, redefined what I think therapy is in so many different aspects of it. And at the same time, I feel like I'm constantly rediscovering therapy. I'm constantly reapproaching it and asking myself, what is this thing that we do? What is healing?
Mhm.
So I'm curious about that for you too, of how have your definitions, your development, how's that changed from the beginning to where you are now?
Yeah, and I think, it feels very much like a pendulum in terms of feeling really rooted in connection and saying, yeah, this work that I'm doing is really about safety in this relationship. And then getting to a very technical place too and saying, let me go back to making sure I'm trained and experienced and studying and growing in that way, and then going back, right? In this pendulum of back and forth. And I feel like that's going to be the long haul of my journey of just kind of like finding myself wanting to be rooted again in relationship and connection, and then saying, but I also want to make sure I'm doing the technical work, the study, right, to grow and challenge myself. And I know we've been talking about it, for me, exploring doing couples therapy, and that feels kind of like that next growth opportunity for me, and feels like, I'm in this like technical phase of study um
Mm.
and onto the, like this next phase in growing my skill set.
And
I feel thankful too that in the beginning when I started being a therapist, I remember feeling really scared. And I know we talked about this a little bit before, but feeling the heaviness of the responsibility of working with an individual and working with a family or a kid, and wanting to do the best I can, and feeling, remember that feeling as an intern of like everything feels kind of intense in school, right? um and I feel like now I'm going to a place where I'm more accepting of myself as a human being in the therapy space, and that feels like a big growth over the last 8 years. And so now I feel very much like this is a collaboration, right? I want to be with this person, and I don't want, my clients to feel like that, a power dynamic either in the space. I wanted
mm,
to feel like this is my partner in this journey right now, right? Rather than it being like I have this expectation of Dani that's up here because this person has, the degree, the qualifications, the studies, right? And that makes them more something, whatever it is, right?
like
Um
more answers to life than other people do in some way. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so I feel like through, my trajectory is that I've gotten to that place, or I'm working towards getting to that place of more acceptance around being a person, a full person in the therapeutic space. And that feels really grounded in what I want to do as in terms of collaborating with my clients and sharing therapeutic space. What about you though? Sorry, I know I'm curious about what you would think in 10 years, right? Because you said you'd hit that marker.
No. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the biggest thing that has probably changed. It's probably that I don't believe in so many of the things that I was taught.
That's big.
I just don't. I
Yes.
don't believe. When I think of what has been most transformative and most healing, it has never been a modality or some like tool
Mm.
that I used. It was my relationship with them. It was the consistency of, especially like the client I was telling you. That feels this is a good segue for it. There was a client that had shared um, that they were sitting with a number of very traumatic experiences that they had not disclosed to anybody um, in a therapeutic setting, because when they had shared it with just loved ones, that was already very difficult. So they didn't think anybody was going to be safe in order to share this with, but it was through watching the podcast and seeing this transparency
Mhm.
and just conversation between Kelsey and I, and me organically just responding with how I feel, that they were like, I actually want to tell you this. Um, and I've never been taught a modality that could explain that dynamic of the time that
Mm.
it took to get there, their decision to look at me in a different lens, to seek me out through the podcast and even be curious about me, to then recognize about themselves that they were withholding that and that they wanted to share at least that with me to start. Like there's something here that I am terrified to share with another person. And then to go through the work of then disclosing that and going through that together and being held and witnessed
Mm.
in that. School can be so beneficial. And so there were so many things,
Yeah.
especially the people I interacted with. Um, but there's so much more of it academically that is just a pile of shit. It gives that impression of I'm up here and we know the answers and
Yeah.
we have this, and it's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The answers
Yeah.
are found with people in the room. Um,
100%.
so yeah, that's the biggest. Thank you.
Yeah. I love that moment too that you described because it feels like it strips away. There's this mysterious quality about what happens in therapy and what happens in sessions. And um, it's not that mysterious, right? It's really just rooted in that relationship, feeling trust, feeling connection. And sometimes we can't pinpoint that until we feel it or we see it. And how cool that your client was able to see that and be like, oh, okay, this is what I needed to call me into that space to feel safe. Um, yeah, that's
It
awesome.
was.
Mhm. Wonderful.
I'd love to sit with, who were you finding yourself drawn to, best able to help? Who are you liking to work with?
Yeah. And, I think one, it's a new experience for me with you guys to be able to have more choice, right? Around and to kind of look inward to myself to see, okay, what's kind of the next step? Where do I feel like my skill set really supports folks and what do I feel excited for as a clinician? And it's an exciting question, an overwhelming question too. Um, and also, there's a tendency too to fall back on what feels really familiar as well as a therapist. And, I was so long working in domestic violence work. Um, but it feels really cool also to be able to expand and open up to folks who are experiencing all types of life changes and struggles, right? Whether from the acute to feeling kind of more everyday, right? It feels really cool to shift into that kind of sphere as well. Um, right now, I'm still building up my caseload, but in the last couple years, it's felt really exciting to start working with um, older adults, right, in that life transition phase, or whether it looks like they're still they're caregiving, whether it looks like they're in retirement, right, making other big life decisions. At that time, it's such a special time, right, to reinvest in yourself. especially after, maybe committing yourself a lot to your career, to your family, to your work.
I was just thinking too, it feels like our parents, the grandparents, their generation had such a different experience in life of like just work, 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 and then you'll get to this retirement
Yeah,
age and then everything is, and wow, how untrue that is for the younger generations that are now
exactly.
breaking that system. But for the older generation that their whole lives went through that believing and now are here at this whole new chapter and yeah, what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. That big question of what to do. And it can feel like a really scary leap, right? Um, And, I find it, as a therapist, really fulfilling to support people during that time. I worked with a lot of folks too who were coming up against that place and also their first time coming to therapy, right? So, kind of their first time
Wow.
opening up in specific ways, sharing specific events in their life. And, the bravery and the trust to be able to do that, like, wow, it really shocked me, especially holding on to things for so long, for 40, 50 years, right? I find it so impressive to be able to want to create change in that time of your life. So um, I feel thankful for all my clients who are in that place and sharing with me. But generally, life transitions. I mean, I also have clients that I'm working with that are finish school, right? And looking for what's the next in their career and what's the next in their relationships and that space of like, okay, does this feel like a fork in the road, pivot place, right? Am I in the right track?
That place of transition that you can support people in and especially that older population, as you say that, I'm thinking of how many clients I work with that would say verbatim, like, "That's exactly what my mom or dad needs," like, is exactly that kind of therapy experience,
Mhm.
and that's such a unique one. I don't think many people hear about therapists that are enjoying working with an older population or retirement age or that life transition where you just find yourself in a different lifestyle, different focus. And then
Mhm.
how to help people maybe for the first time where they've never had that kind of connection, intimacy, healing opportunity to maybe even to focus on
Yeah,
themselves and look at themselves.
right.
I'm so glad that you offer that because I just know that there are so many people that are thinking of their loved ones that need that so that might not even know of it and how connecting that can be.
Yeah. And there's so much stigma around, that aging in general, right? That we don't want to look at, that we don't want to think about, and even in ourselves, right? If we're in a place where our bodies are changing, whether it's menopause, right, or whether heart disease, whatever it is that folks are struggling with health wise, right? It can be really challenging to think about how do I want to move forward and still really feel joy day to day in my life, right? While struggling with those physical and mental challenges. So, but the stigma of talking about aging, the stigma of talking about that stage in our life is really, really powerful. I think it feels like I agree with you that it's a fraught. It's kind of can be fraught for some folks, but you know, it's where we need it. We need support all ages,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Oh, it's such a beautiful example of it's never too late. It's such a good reminder too of how whether it's age, an illness, whatever, your whole life can change in this way. And then you're presented an
100%.
entire grief experience for what was and what maybe is no longer, but also a really beautiful opportunity to redefine and ask yourselves, what do you want to do with this now that this is your new reality? What would you like with that?
Yeah.
And not feeling alone in that and having a supportive outlet to just talk that through with is so that would be life changing.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we talk about change, right? I mean, there's lots of research, right, about plasticity in the brain, and we focus a lot on youth and what they're capable of changing at a young age. And, that focus in older generations is not often the same, right? Is that we actually have a lot of kind of other, perceptions about how people are able to change as they age, right? And talking about back about that hope, how doing therapy gives me hope in the world
Yes.
is that belief of like change can really happen at any stage in our life. I love to see that, and that feels so hopeful for me as a clinician, as a human being, to see folks in all stages of life coming forward saying, "I need to make a change in my life. I want to make a change in my life," and doing and taking those steps to do it. Um, it's a big deal.
Big deal. What are you working with most right now in terms of goals, symptoms, modalities? Is there anything else that you really like working with?
Mm. I work a lot with folks who experience anxiety. That's something that feels super prevalent. Just like in our world right now with technology and everything, we're just inundated with information. And not to speak, about what's going on in the world right now, but we are just overcome with information about suffering, about what folks are going through. So um, working with anxiety is something that I experience as well, and so it's something that feels really impactful to partner with folks and work in a collaborative way. Um,
Such a good point.
but and another place that I've always felt really connected and grounded in my work is working with the Latino community. So I did that a lot earlier in my career. Um, and I had provided previously bilingual services, and so I'm not doing that now, but I still feel very connected and rooted to working with folks. um yeah, just across. I'm Venezuelan, but working with folks from all over Latin America, um in terms of kind of identity issues and family concerns and challenges, and
Just note on the bilingual, I feel like maybe you're being almost too humble in this. I was actually just talking to Brittany Webb about this over at Better Minds. Love you, Brittany. Um,
Mm.
because she had asked something about it too, and I was like, well, I was like, conversationally, like, yes, I was like, but Dani doesn't want to take like ownership of like knowing every medical word, or like, what if somebody came to her without a
Yeah.
medical? And she was like, I don't think that's necessary. You're probably totally right. Like you could probably be like, I don't know that word, and like we could look that up, but like otherwise, you absolutely do, and that
Yeah.
is such a piece to resonate with. Literally, a piece of hope of
Yeah.
being able to just express self and share self and feel unfiltered in that way. And I know you've always been so humble to be like, I'm not offering that right now, but also at the same time, I know that that's a piece of your heart. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, in full transparency, right? I am a, Venezuelan immigrant. I grew up in the States, right? And I think a lot of folks can relate to that, living kind of on this cusp border, right, of different cultures and different languages. And so, um, having fluency in Spanish can be such a insecurity for a lot of immigrants. Or lots of kids maybe who are first gen in the States and grew up here, and use language to connect with their family, but may not use it every day in their life. And so, yeah, that is kind of, I had a moment where, I offered bilingual services, and in clinical spaces, realizing like, oh man, these medical terms, that's not something I'm familiar with. And feeling that kind of, we talked about that fear, right, as a therapist around the responsibility, feeling that fear of like, can something, I have a responsibility towards this person and I want to feel prepared. And also it's something I'm still working through as a therapist, right? And it's a vulnerability for me.
very personal.
And I have a son right now who I'm trying to teach him as much Spanish as I have. So it's something I'm thinking about all the time. I know we're doing kind of a caveat now.
Oh,
We're
I
like,
love it. Yes,
tangent.
we do here. We just go where it goes.
Yeah, we're just going somewhere else. But language is a Yeah. Language is an important aspect of therapeutic work, and folks being able to communicate authentically, right? I want that in the space. So hopefully in the future, it's something that I can tune up and work through. But for folks who want to speak to me in Spanish, I welcome that 100%. Um, and just know, right, that I might respond in English, right? It might be a bicultural space, a bilingual space, a Spanglish space.
Literally, and to get to know
um,
one another in
yeah.
that way.
Yes. Yes.
Love that, and it is so needed. Yeah,
Yeah.
my as you well know, my side of the family is Slavic, and that's something as you're saying it, I'm like, I really need to branch out into our area and see if there are any Russian-speaking therapists. 'Cause
Wow. And so do you speak Russian?
I'm pretty good at hearing it and understanding it, but I am not good at speaking. No.
But how cool would it be to even, because there's so many things in language that don't translate across,
Yes.
across different languages. Sorry. Okay, I think our video's lagging too. I think we're coming back. But it would be really interesting to learn about what the differences are in terms of how Russian clinicians approach the spaces, like linguistically, culturally. That feels really interesting.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
use a number of
place to explore.
Russian metaphors all the time. I'm always saying something, and my clients will be like, "What?" I'll be like,
Really? Oh, tell me one.
Russians are
Oh,
so good at that, like the metaphors and analogies for like very poetic, very yeah. Oh, he's not
wow.
a wolf. It will not run into the woods. It's like a
It's gonna stick around. It's gonna stick around.
yeah,
How cool. I love that. Okay, that's a fun
yeah.
one.
I'll have to come up with some other ones, and that might be a good topic. I'll have to find somebody, and then maybe I'd love to do like a
Mm,
almost like a cultural segment. I think that's such a good idea of
wow.
how is therapy from a lens of different cultures, and that way how do different cultures approach it?
That would be incredible. That would be awesome. So much to talk about there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a cool thing about doing the podcast is you're in it and then you'll come up with another idea midway through. All right. So what's your favorite part about being a therapist? I think we probably touched on this a little bit, but let's come back to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it feels kind of repeating myself in a way is the relationship, the connection. Um, I love to see folks acknowledge their own growth and being in a space where I can just shower them with compliments and be like, you did that. Look at that. Look at yourself. Give yourself credit for that. Being in the cheerleader role is so fun. Is so
It really
fun.
is. And how empowering that is for them, like seeing the actual impact of your positivity and seeing their strengths.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I totally agree. Like, having someone else kind of validate that, but also it coming from an internal space where you can recognize and you can see that positive change for yourself and put it into words, right? So incredible to witness as a therapist. And a good reminder for me to do that for myself too.
Oh, love that. What's something you wish more people knew or understood about the therapy process?
Mm, yeah, this is a fun one. I want to hear your answer for this one too, actually. Um, I feel like we touched on this too. It's not mysterious. I don't want folks to feel like this is some sort of who knows what's going on in that space, that there's, you know, I think there's a level of we've talked about that's connection, it's about relationship, right? And in some ways it might feel really familiar to relationship you have with a friend or family member, a parent, right? There may be moments where, oh, it recalls that kind of connection, right? And that's inherent. Like we just experienced that day to day, right? And now we're in an office doing it, right?
Yeah.
That trust building. And also the other part is that you can ask questions. This doesn't have to be a mystery in terms of, I don't know where the therapist is going. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their training is, their orientation. I always encourage folks to ask me questions to push back to if they're like, Dani, I don't know about that one.
Right?
Like, or,
That doesn't fit.
yeah, so nothing is a secret, right?
Yes. Be
Um,
transparent, show up, feel free to share yourself too.
yes. Yeah, transparency feels like, yeah, the big word there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think of it,
What about you?
guess most this week has been how many clients think that they have to be like a good student at therapy. Two clients that are fairly new, they were sharing that they were noticing kind of a sense of like, I'm afraid of failing or not doing good at therapy, and most specifically, disappointing me, letting me down, feeling like, what if we've already talked about this? Or what if we've already talked about a
Mm,
tool I could use for that? And here I am coming back around to it. I think you pointed to it beautifully with the pendulum idea, which we as therapists have to practice, but it also goes into what the therapy experience is a lot like, which is that some sessions we will be focusing on a goal, this thing that we're moving towards, and we're maybe more structured or we're applying something. But then there's a lot of other times where we're just talking. We are just talking about our
Right.
relationship and what things feel like for you. And so I think clients sometimes put a lot of pressure on themselves to perform well or get all the lessons down, to do so quickly and not repeat anything. And I wish more
Mm.
clients knew, but I have no expectations of you to do it. That would not be realistic. That is not part of the learning.
Right.
Therapy often reminds me of how I felt in the third grade doing math, where I would like
Mhm.
I would be watching Mr. Murphy on the board doing his thing, and I'd be like, okay, looks so easy, totally got it. Like that plus that, boom, done. I'll have it, no problem. And then I sit down and I'm like, what was the first thing that you said? And I do that with jujitsu.
Let's roll the tape.
100%. I do it with jujitsu all the time. That was me this morning where I'm like, oh, okay, so you're going to put this leg through and you're going to lock it through and then and then boom, like limb broken. Have a nice day. And then I sit down and I'm like, so what was the very first thing? Like, where do I put my hand?
Yeah.
So
What a great that's 100% it, right? That's like the process of learning anything, right? We all have that experience of being like mind goes blank, right? Like it all made sense when I was talking to this person, and now that I'm on my own, what is going on?
yeah.
Yeah, and that impulse to do things well, do things right, to be the good client, right? Yeah, that is a strong impulse, right? And I think therapists feel it too, right? Wanting to be the good therapist and do things right. And um yeah, I think I just had a conversation with a client about this in terms of homework, right? What does it mean to have to work on things, right? And report back and maybe worry about disappointment, worry about if I didn't complete it like it was supposed to be done or what that means, right? And I feel like it even emphasizes even more the importance of this is a collaboration. This is us. There's no, right? There shouldn't be heaviness around this kind of work, right? Moments of heaviness, but not on the expectation of like my expectations.
Sometimes that becomes part of the homework is like noticing, oh, I kept thinking of that thing that you said, but I didn't want to. Like there was something about it I didn't want
Yes.
to get to. And it's like, let's just talk about that.
Yes. Right.
Right? If you want
Yeah, we got good stuff to go in.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
But that is such a good reminder, and I guess so much part of when we talk about that relational aspect of therapy, this is
Right.
really what it feels like, and I think we can all resonate with that feeling. It's like when you've been feeling like a little disconnected from a friend, and then you go out for like
Right.
dinner with them, and you put it all on the table where you're like, I feel like I don't know what's going on in your life, and like where have you been, and like what's happening, and I
Yeah.
hate that I feel this way. Like I miss you, and you just put it all out there, and then they say the same things back, and they're like, I miss you too, and you feel at the end of
That's
it, you're just like, oh god, that felt so good to like get all of
relief.
that out, and then to know that we're on the same page, and therapy feels a lot like that.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. That's about yeah, within the relationship of feeling that connection and trust and curiosity, right? Um yeah. That's another great. You're good at these analogies. That one wasn't
It's
Russian,
not
but
Russian.
it still counted.
Okay, Danny.
Mm.
Is there anything else that you want to tag on or include? Or obviously everybody can find you and your services at Full Living Wellness. Everything will be linked in the caption below so people can check you out. Is there anything else that you want to be able to share as we come to a close for today?
Just thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed this. I was nervous about it, but it was great.
I always get nervous too.
And just yeah, thank you.
Danny, thank you so much for being open to it and for being here and just being a part of the team. We're so lucky to have you. And yeah, for everybody else,
Yeah.
thank you also for being here. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.